The observation bay's curved window offered an unobstructed view of Earth, a pale blue dot suspended in the void, shimmering with the reflected light of a modest yellow star. High Commander Zaxavar watched it with 6 compound eyes that betrayed no emotion. His carapace glinted under the soft illumination of the command deck, Shiden plates shifting as he moved with calculated precision. The humans persist in their refusal, Overseer, reported his subordinate, mandibles clicking in clear agitation. They claim extraction rights to their asteroid belt violate some primitive concept they call sovereignty. Zaxvar's response emerged as a low vibration that the ship's translation matrix rendered into comprehensible sound. Sovereignty is a luxury reserved for civilizations that matter in the cosmic order. The Dhraxi Imperium had encountered thousands of species during its 50,000-year expansion. Most had been assimilated or exterminated with negligible resistance. Humanity, isolated on their single habitable world and having achieved only rudimentary interplanetary travel, was categorized as a Class 4 developing species, technically spacefaring but centuries away from becoming a meaningful presence in the galaxy. Their transmissions grow increasingly belligerent, the subordinate continued. They threaten military action. This provoked a sound from Zikti's VAR that the translation matrix couldn't process. The Dhraxi equivalent of derisive laughter. The notion that humanity's primitive fusion-powered vessels and chemical projectile weapons could threaten an imperial subjugation fleet was mathematically absurd. Protocol dictates we deliver one educational correction, Zaxavar stated. Select a population center of moderate size. Something peripheral to their power structures, but substantial enough to register in their collective consciousness. The subordinate's manipulator appendages danced across the control interface. Grand Rapids, North American continental mass. Population approximately 200,000 individuals. Proceed with the demonstration. Standard atmospheric conversion protocol. Dr. Marcus Harrington hunched over his keyboard in the basement laboratory of West Michigan University's physics department, his eyes burning from 20 hours of uninterrupted work. At 43, his dark hair had begun surrendering territory at the temples, and lines had entrenched themselves around his eyes, the physical tax of a mind that refused to power down. The simulation results made no sense. He'd been tracking the alien vessels since they appeared beyond Mars 2 weeks ago, applying his theoretical models to their observed behaviors. The equations suggested capabilities that violated established physics. "You're still here?" Dr. Amelia Wright appeared at the doorway, coffee mug in hand. "The evacuation order went out hours ago." Marcus rubbed his eyes. "Evac orders are premature. These objects are just observing. If they wanted conflict, they'd have initiated it immediately upon arrival." Amelia set the coffee beside him. "That's not how the Joint Chiefs see it. Military's mobilizing everything." "Which is exactly the wrong approach," Marcus muttered. "Their technology suggests a civilization thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years ahead of us. If they register us as a threat." The laboratory's emergency lighting kicked in as the main power failed. Marcus's computer switched to battery backup. A notification appeared. Incoming transmission from NASA JPL. He opened it to find a series of spectroscopic readings from the alien vessels. "They're charging something," he whispered, scanning the data. "Energy signatures unlike anything." The ground shook. Not the sharp jolt of an earthquake, but a continuous, deep vibration that seemed to resonate through the building's foundation. Marcus rushed to the window. The sky over Grand Rapids had transformed. Where clear autumn blue had dominated minutes before, a strange aurora-like phenomenon now rippled across the heavens. Tendrils of green and purple energy weaving through rapidly forming cloud structures. His phone rang. The caller ID showed his brother's name. "James? Are you seeing this?" His brother's voice came through tight with controlled panic. "Marcus, get out of the city. Now. I'm at the observatory. Whatever those ships are doing, they're changing the atmospheric composition over Grand Rapids. Oxygen levels are plummeting and there's something else being introduced. We can't identify it." Marcus watched as the rippling energy above intensified. "How long?" "Minutes. Maybe less." The reaction is accelerating exponentially. Through the window, Marcus saw people running in the streets. Car alarms blared. Someone collapsed on the sidewalk, clutching their throat. "James, I need you to send everything you have to my secure server. All of it. Readings, observations, everything." "Marcus, there's no time for." "These aren't just random attacks," Marcus interrupted. "There's a pattern. A logic. I can see it forming. Promise me." The line went silent for a moment before James responded. Okay, it's uploading now. But Marcus, please, I love you, brother. Now go. Marcus hung up and turned to Amelia, who stood frozen by the door. We need to get to the hazmat storage, now. 48 hours later, HFY reviewed the results of the atmospheric conversion with clinical detachment. The target area had been successfully neutralized with 99.7%. As expected, the humans' primitive communication networks had exploded with emotional outbursts. Fear, grief, and anger predominating. The human leadership has requested negotiations. His subordinate reported. They no longer have anything to negotiate with, HFY replied. Inform extraction teams to begin asteroid belt operations immediately. A different subordinate approached, this one's carapace bearing the markings of Intelligence Division. High Commander, we have detected an anomaly in the post-incident data. Specify. The human information networks contain excessive technical queries about our atmospheric conversion technology. Their scientific communities are exchanging complex theoretical models at an unprecedented rate. HFY dismissed this with a gesture. Primitive species often attempt to comprehend technologies beyond their development stage after demonstrations. It is meaningless. There is more, the intelligence officer continued. We have identified 73 survivors from the target area, all secured in sealed environments with respiratory equipment. This indicates foreknowledge. This provoked HFY's first moment of genuine curiosity. How could they anticipate the specific nature of our correction? Unknown. But one of the survivors appears significant. A researcher named Marcus Harrington. Before the atmospheric conversion, he accessed multiple restricted databases and downloaded terabytes of observational data on our fleet. A single human presents no threat, HFY stated. The intelligence officer hesitated before continuing. The Historical Analysis Division has completed its assessment of human conflicts. Their intraspecies wars reveal a concerning pattern. When technologically superior forces attack humans, the inferior human forces frequently develop asymmetrical countermeasures with unexpected effectiveness. You credit primitives with too much potential, HFY said dismissively. Prepare for Phase 2 resource extraction. 3 weeks after what the world now called the Grand Rapids extinction, Marcus Harrington stood before the United Nations Security Council in the emergency facility beneath the Swiss Alps. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow from grief and sleepless determination. The room fell silent as he connected his device to the presentation system. On the main screen appeared complex equations and molecular structures. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady despite everything. I've identified the atmospheric conversion agent used against Grand Rapids. It's a self-replicating nanomolecular catalyst designed to transmute oxygen into a compound toxic to carbon-based life. He advanced to the next slide. More importantly, I've determined how it works, how it's controlled, and how to reverse it. A murmur spread through the delegates. But that's not why I'm here, Marcus continued. I'm here because I've discovered something about our visitors that they don't want us to know. He pulled up a new set of calculations. Their technology isn't magic. It's just physics we haven't mastered yet, and their biology isn't incomprehensible. It's just different chemistry. The room had gone completely still. They believe we're harmless because we can't reach them with our rockets or hurt them with our weapons. But they've made a fundamental error in their assessment. Marcus's voice took on an edge none of them had heard before. They don't understand that humans don't need to match their capabilities to defeat them. We just need to understand how they work. He displayed a final diagram. A complex molecular structure. This is their biochemistry, their equivalent of DNA. I extracted it from residual materials left in the atmospheric conversion, and here's what they don't realize. His eyes burned with something beyond anger, beyond grief, a cold, calculated certainty. You don't need to be as advanced as your enemy. You just need to understand their one critical vulnerability. A general leaned forward. Are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Marcus interrupted. I'm telling you that I know how to hurt them, and I know how to make them leave, or how to make them pay. As the implications of his words sank in, Marcus delivered the statement that would eventually be inscribed on humanity's first interstellar warship. The universe isn't governed by the most advanced civilization. It's governed by those who most thoroughly understand the rules of existence, and are willing to use that understanding without mercy. The Dhraxi fleet's extraction vessels move through Earth's asteroid belt with mechanical efficiency. Harvesters larger than mountains, carved into metal-rich planetoids. disintegrating and processing them through molecular separation arrays. Resource vessels collected the refined materials, ready for transport back to the Empire's industrial nexuses. The operation proceeded according to the standard acquisition protocol, until it did. High Commander Zyxavar's compound eyes narrowed as the projection matrix displayed another extraction vessel going offline, the fourth in as many solar rotations. Malfunction? He inquired, his translator rendering the complex vibrational patterns of his native speech. Uncertain, High Commander, his operations officer responded. Telemetry data terminated simultaneously with all communication. No distress signal was transmitted. Zyxavar's carapace plates shifted in the Dhraxi equivalent of a contemplative frown. Show me the vessel's final transmissions. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the interior of the extraction vessel. Dhraxi crew members moved with characteristic precision among the control interfaces. Nothing appeared amiss until the final 3 seconds of footage, a momentary flash followed by a strange distortion effect that rippled across the image before transmission ceased. Analysis suggests a catastrophic power core breach, the officer reported. 4 identical failures within 96 hours defies probability, Zyxavar stated. Dispatch investigation drones to the coordinates. Marcus Harrington hadn't seen daylight in 2 months. The underground facility beneath Wyoming's Wind River Range housed what remained of humanity's scientific elite, physicists, chemists, biologists, engineers, all working with single-minded purpose. He stood before a wall-sized display showing real-time feeds from the asteroid belt. The room erupted in controlled celebration as another alien harvester disintegrated in a brilliant flash of light. Admiral Catherine Reynolds, the facility's military liaison, approached with an expression that balanced satisfaction with caution. That's 4. The strike teams are extracting now. Marcus nodded, his eyes never leaving the display. And our casualties? None. The bioshielding held against their defense systems. This was the breakthrough that had changed everything. Within days of the Grand Rapids attack, Marcus had identified unique radiation signatures emitted by the aliens' detection systems. More importantly, he discovered that specific configurations of simple carbon nanostructures, technology humans had possessed for decades, could bend these detection waves around objects, rendering them effectively invisible to Dhraxi sensors. The reverse-engineered propulsion systems? Marcus asked. Operating within expected parameters, Reynolds replied. Team leaders report the alien technology integrates with our systems exactly as your models predicted. What the Dhraxi never considered was that humans had been studying the fundamental principles behind their advanced technology for centuries, just without the engineering capacity to implement them. The aliens' casual display of their capabilities had provided the missing pieces to theoretical frameworks already established in human physics. Dr. Wright's team is ready for your inspection, Reynolds added. Marcus followed her through the facility's maze-like corridors to a sealed laboratory where Amelia Wright, one of the 73 survivors from Grand Rapids, waited beside a containment chamber. Inside floated what appeared to be a cloud of shimmering dust. It's replicating exponentially, Amelia said without preamble. The Dhraxi communication protocols you extracted were the key. Their system architecture is fundamentally vulnerable to self-propagating code because they've never encountered hostile artificial intelligence. Marcus studied the particle cloud. How long until deployment readiness? 72 hours, Amelia replied. Though I should note that once released, we cannot guarantee containment. This is a true Grey Goo scenario. They killed 200,000 people without hesitation, Marcus said quietly. To demonstrate a point, Admiral Reynolds cleared her throat. The Security Council is still deliberating on deployment authorization. Marcus turned to her, his expression hardening. The Dhraxi are mobilizing a second atmospheric conversion. Target is Shanghai. 25 million people, Admiral. Reynolds' eyes widened. How could you possibly know that? Because I understand them now, Marcus replied. Their strategic doctrines are algorithmic, not intuitive. After planetary resistance, they always escalate to a population center exactly 100 times larger than the initial demonstration. Surveillance Coordinator Next Corps approached High Commander Zyxavar with uncharacteristic urgency. The investigation drones have discovered anomalies at all 4 extraction vessel destruction sites. The holographic display activated, showing debris fields where the vessels had been destroyed. Highlighted among the fragments were objects of clearly non-Dhraxi origin, human-made spacecraft components, modified with unfamiliar attachments. Impossible, Zyxavar stated. Human vessels cannot reach our extraction operations with their propulsion technology. Evidence indicates otherwise. Next Corps responded. Analysis suggests they have adapted elements of our propulsion systems to their craft. For the first time, Dhraxi felt the stirring of genuine concern. The central doctrine of Dhraxi expansion relied on maintaining insurmountable technological superiority over developing species. No Class 4 civilization had ever reverse-engineered Dhraxi technology during an acquisition phase. How many human craft have been detected in the asteroid belt? He demanded. None. High Commander. You claim they are attacking our vessels yet remain undetected? Next Corps' mandibles clicked in discomfort. We have discovered unusual radiation patterns that suggest some form of sensor avoidance technology. Dhraxi rose from his command podium, his full height imposing even among the Dhraxi. Increase our sensor sweep range by 300%. Deploy combat drones throughout the asteroid belt. I want these primitives located and eliminated. There is another matter requiring immediate attention. Next Corps continued. Our systems have detected multiple intrusion attempts into the fleet's communication network. Primitive hacking attempts? No, High Commander. The intrusions utilize protocols identical to our internal security architecture. They are attempting to access atmospheric conversion control systems. For the first time in his long career, Dhraxi felt the cold touch of strategic uncertainty. The humans were not behaving according to any established response pattern for Class 4 species. They were adapting with unprecedented speed, utilizing asymmetric tactics that exploited previously unknown vulnerabilities in Dhraxi systems. Initiate immediate atmospheric conversion of their largest population center, he ordered. The response must be definitive. In orbit above Earth, 16 Dhraxi vessels moved into formation, preparing to unleash atmospheric conversion technology over Shanghai, their energy capacitors charged, building the massive power surge required to initiate the cascading molecular reaction that would transmute oxygen into toxic compounds. Aboard his command vessel, Dhraxi watched the operation with grim satisfaction. The humans' unexpected resistance in the asteroid belt would be rendered irrelevant once they understood the true scale of punishment the Imperium could inflict. Conversion initiating in 30 seconds, announced the weapons coordinator. At precisely that moment, every display on the command deck flickered and distorted. The ship's lighting systems pulsed erratically. A strange vibration ran through the vessel's structure. Status report? Dhraxi demanded. Unknown system interference? Responded his operations officer. Manipulator appendages moving frantically across control interfaces. Communication with the conversion fleet is degrading. The main display stabilized, but instead of showing the tactical overview of Earth, it displayed the face of Marcus Harrington. High Commander Dhraxi, Marcus began. His voice rendered in perfect Dhraxi vibrational patterns by a translator. You're probably wondering how I'm addressing you directly through your secured command systems. Dhraxi's compound eyes fixed on the human's image with cold fury. Terminate this intrusion immediately. Your systems are no longer under your control. Marcus continued, as if Dhraxi hadn't spoken. While you were focused on our activities in the asteroid belt, we released a microscopic swarm into your fleet's ventilation systems. Self-replicating machines designed specifically to interface with and override Dhraxi technology. On secondary displays, Dhraxi watched in mounting horror as system after system throughout his fleet reported critical failures. Weapons went offline. Propulsion systems entered emergency shutdown. Life support fluctuated. Atmospheric conversion technology is particularly vulnerable, Marcus explained. The same principles that allow you to transmute oxygen can be reversed and targeted with extreme precision. Across the command deck, Dhraxi officers began clutching at their breathing apertures as the air composition within the ship began to change. You're experiencing a localized version of what you inflicted on Grand Rapids, Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. Confined exclusively to Dhraxi physiology. Your ships remain structurally intact. Your non-Dhraxi crew members are unaffected. Dhraxi fought against the burning sensation in his respiratory system. This is unprecedented. No Class 4 civilization has... Your classification system is your first mistake, Marcus interrupted. You categorize species based on technological development, not adaptive potential. Humanity has spent its entire existence fighting to survive against nature, against each other, against extinction-level threats. We don't need to match your technology. We just need to understand it well enough to turn it against you. Around Dhraxi, his officers were collapsing, their carapaces contorting as they struggled to breathe. I've transmitted our capabilities to every member of the Dhraxi Imperium's leadership, Marcus continued. They now understand that continuing this invasion means risking not just this fleet, but potentially your entire species. We've demonstrated we can adapt your weapons to target your specific biology with perfect precision. Zixavar felt his consciousness fading as his breathing grew more labored. The last thing he heard was Marcus Harrington's final statement. You came to our world believing yourselves to be invincible gods. You'll leave understanding you're just another form of life that can be extinguished. The atmospheric conversion over my ship will terminate in exactly 60 seconds, long enough for you to contemplate how completely you've misjudged us, but not long enough to formulate a countermeasure. Choose your next actions carefully, Commander. As darkness crept into the edges of his vision, Zixavar experienced an emotion no Dhraxi commander had felt in 10,000 years of Imperial expansion. Fear. Genuine, existential fear. Not just for himself, but for the Empire he served. They had awakened something they did not understand. Something that adapted not in generations, but in days. Something that turned strength into vulnerability and transformed apparent technological inferiority into deadly advantage. In his fading thoughts, a terrible realization formed. The humans were not simply resisting. They were learning. And what they were learning was how to hunt Dhraxi. The Dhraxi Imperial Council convened an emergency session for the first time in 700 years. 18 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered in the cavernous chamber of Dominion, their carapaces reflecting the dim blue light that signified deliberation on matters of existential importance. Supreme Overlord Krazavir, whose lineage had overseen the conquest of 3 spiral arms, addressed the assembled council with uncharacteristic urgency. The subjugation fleet at Sol 3 has suffered unprecedented tactical reversals. High Commander Zixavar reports that the Class 4 natives have developed countermeasures to our atmospheric conversion technology and have successfully neutralized 4 extraction vessels. The chamber resonated with the vibrational patterns of distress and disbelief. Impossible, declared war strategist Mexler. No species at their development stage has ever reverse-engineered Imperial technology. Supreme Overlord Krazavir's compound eyes shifted. The evidence is irrefutable. The humans have not only adapted our technology, but have modified it to specifically target Dhraxi biology. Resource Minister Vextur's mandibles clicked in agitation. The extraction operation must continue. The rare metals in their asteroid belt are critical for the Empire's 5th quadrant expansion. We have dispatched the 9th Annihilation Fleet, Krazvar announced. They will arrive at Sol 3 in 14 solar cycles. The humans' resistance, while unprecedented, will be brief. Marcus Harrington stood in the center of the United Nations Emergency Command bunker, addressing the assembled leaders of Earth's nations. The cavernous underground chamber, carved from the bedrock beneath the Swiss Alps, hummed with tension and fragile hope. We've bought ourselves time, but not victory, Marcus explained, gesturing to the holographic display showing the Dhraxi fleet repositioning to defensive formations. Our nanite infiltration damaged their command vessels, but their systems are already adapting countermeasures. President Walker of the North American Alliance leaned forward. How long until they launch another attack? They won't, Marcus replied, surprising the assembly. At least, not immediately. We forced them to reassess their entire strategic approach. Marcus manipulated the holographic controls, revealing intercepted Dhraxi communications. They're calling for reinforcements. A fleet they believe is powerful enough to obliterate us without requiring atmospheric conversion. The chamber erupted in murmurs of dismay. I thought you said we'd won, the Chinese premier interjected. I said we bought time, Marcus corrected. But time is the one resource that matters most right now. He gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show an asteroid, unremarkable except for its location at the edge of the solar system, and the complex facility now embedded within it. Operation Evolutionary Leap is ready, Marcus announced. Dr. Wright, please explain. Amelia Wright stepped forward, her eyes reflecting the determination of someone who had watched her city die. The Dhraxi's fundamental error wasn't underestimating our technology, it was underestimating our adaptability. Their species evolves through gradual genetic optimization over thousands of generations. They literally cannot comprehend the speed at which humans adapt under pressure. She expanded the holographic display to show a complex molecular structure. This is the next phase, a synthetic neural enhancement that temporarily accelerates human cognitive processing by a factor of 50. Stunned silence fell over the assembly. We've already tested it on volunteer scientists, Marcus added. The results exceeded our most optimistic projections. Problems that would take months to solve can be resolved in hours. At what cost? Demanded the Russian president. Marcus and Amelia exchanged glances. The enhancement burns through neural pathways, Amelia admitted. Subjects experience accelerated aging proportional to usage duration. You're talking about sacrificing years of your lives. President Walker realized. Some of us are sacrificing all of them, Marcus said quietly. I've already undergone the procedure. My estimated remaining lifespan is 9 months. The revelation hit the room like a physical force. The Dhraxi believe they're fighting a conventional war against a technologically inferior species. Marcus continued, they're wrong. They're fighting against a species that's willing to compress a century of technological evolution into weeks. The Dhraxi monitoring station on Mars detected the human ships too late. By the time the alarm protocols activated, 50 vessels of unfamiliar configuration had already bypassed the defensive perimeter, moving with impossible precision. Acting Commander Rixtar, who had assumed leadership after High Commander Zixtaver's incapacitation, watched with growing horror as the human fleet split into tactical formations and executed maneuvers that defied Dhraxi prediction algorithms. Impossible, he whispered, as the sensor displays showed human vessels phasing in and out of detection range. Their navigation systems cannot be this advanced. The truth was more terrifying than he could comprehend. The human vessels weren't being guided by navigation systems at all. They were being piloted by men and women whose neural processing had been enhanced to the point where they could calculate complex, four-dimensional trajectories in real time, humans who had sacrificed decades of their lives to operate at cognitive levels no unmodified human could achieve. All vessels initiate emergency defense protocol, Rixtar ordered. Deploy gravitational disruption fields. The order came too late. The human vessels had already penetrated to the heart of the Dhraxi fleet. They didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they released clouds of microscopic particles, trillions of self-replicating nanites programmed to interface with and override Dhraxi technology. Communication systems compromise, reported his panicked communications officer. Weapons systems offline. Life support failing. Rixtar's compound eyes fixed on the primary display as it flickered and resolved into an image of Marcus Harrington, noticeably aged since their last encounter, his hair now gray, deep lines etched into his face. This isn't an invasion, Marcus stated, his artificially enhanced mind allowing him to speak perfect Dhraxi without translation assistance. It's a negotiation. The negotiations took place on neutral ground, the airless surface of Earth's moon. Marcus Harrington, now physically diminished by the neural enhancement side effects, but mentally sharper than any human in history, faced Supreme Overlord Krasazavir across a table constructed for this singular, unprecedented event. Your species has achieved what we thought impossible, Krasavir admitted, the translator rendering his vibrational speech. You have forced the Dhraxi Imperium to negotiate with a Class 4 civilization. Marcus did not smile. The neural enhancement had burned away such frivolous expressions. Your classification system is fundamentally flawed. You categorize species by their current technological achievement rather than their adaptive potential. A mistake we will not repeat, Krasavir acknowledged. What are your terms? Marcus activated a holographic display between them. Earth and the entire Sol system will be designated as sovereign territory, permanently excluded from imperial expansion. Acceptable, Krasavir agreed too quickly. I haven't finished, Marcus continued. The Dhraxi Imperium will provide full technological schematics for interstellar travel, planetary defense systems, and medical technology sufficient to reverse the neural enhancement degradation. Krasavor's carapace shifted in the Dhraxi equivalent of indignation. You demand access to imperial secrets accumulated over 50 millennia? Inconceivable. Consider the alternative, Marcus replied calmly. We've demonstrated our ability to adapt your technology against you. We've infiltrated your communication networks. We understand your biology better than you understand ours. He leaned forward slightly. But most importantly, we've transmitted the formula for human neural enhancement to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Other species you've classified as primitive now have the same potential we demonstrated. Krasavor's compound eyes fixed on Marcus with sudden comprehension. You've destabilized the entire Imperial classification system. We've corrected it, Marcus countered. Species should be evaluated by their potential, not their current state. The Dhraxi have ruled through technological superiority for too long. That era ends today. 1 year later, Marcus Harrington sat in a wheelchair on the observation deck of humanity's first true interstellar vessel. The effects of the neural enhancement had accelerated his aging dramatically. At 44, he had the body of a man in his 90s, but his mind remained razor-sharp, operating at levels no unenhanced human could comprehend. Earth had transformed. Dhraxi technology, provided as part of the peace treaty, had revolutionized human society. Clean energy, advanced medicine, and the beginnings of a true spacefaring civilization were taking shape with breathtaking speed. Amelia Wright approached, herself visibly aged by the neural enhancement she had undergone. "The reversal treatments are showing promise," she said. "The Dhraxi medical databases contained cellular regeneration protocols we never imagined." "Too late for the first generation," Marcus replied without regret. "But the next wave of enhanced humans won't have to make the same sacrifice." The ship's viewport offered a spectacular view of Jupiter and its moons, where human outposts were already under construction. Beyond, barely visible, the first interstellar probe prepared to journey to Proxima Centauri. "The Galactic Council convenes next month," Amelia noted. "Humanity has been granted full membership, the fastest ascension in known history. And the Dhraxi, struggling to adapt to the new reality? 17 formerly subjugated species have declared independence using our enhancement formula. The Imperium is fracturing." Marcus nodded slowly. "They built an empire on the assumption that evolution must be gradual, that advantages accumulate over thousands of generations. They never understood that consciousness itself can accelerate evolution." Admiral Reynolds entered the observation deck. "Dr. Harrington, we've received a transmission from the edge of the solar system. The archivists have arrived." Marcus's eyes widened. "They're real?" "Very real," Reynolds confirmed. "And they're requesting to speak with the human who changed the balance." The archivists, a species mentioned only in ancient Dhraxi myths, believed to observe and record the evolution of galactic civilizations without interference. Their message included this, Reynolds added, presenting a data crystal. "They said you would understand its significance." Marcus activated the crystal. It projected a single image, a timeline of galactic history spanning millions of years. At its very end, a small notation indicated cognitive evolution era initiated by Sulf. "They've been watching all along," Marcus whispered, "waiting for a species to make this breakthrough." As the implications settled over him, Marcus understood the true scope of what humanity had accomplished. They hadn't merely survived the Dhraxi. They had unwittingly triggered a fundamental shift in the evolution of all sentient life in the galaxy. The observation deck fell silent as the three humans contemplated this revelation. Finally, Marcus spoke the words that would eventually be inscribed on monuments throughout human space and beyond. "The greatest power in the universe isn't technology or weapons or even knowledge. It's the capacity to become what you are not yet faster than anyone believes possible."